Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 232, I believe we're up to. Yes, 232, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, so let's get started. I had a pretty decent haul, pretty big haul this week, which is 22 books. So number 22 for me is Infinity Countdown, issue 1. Disappointed to see this so low, but I'm not a big cosmic fan in Marvel Comics, so I could understand why this is low. And also, I hadn't been reading Duggan's Guardians, and I feel like if you've read that series, you will enjoy this more, because it felt like a Guardians issue more than encompassing the Marvel Universe coming together. So you get that a little bit in the end, and I do like the Black Widow scene where she gets like a note from Logan. I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, I was kind of bored and again a little lost because I hadn't been reading Guardians and again just not as connected to the cosmic world of Marvel. So I don't know if I'll get another issue. Artwork also I guess is similar to what Guardians was doing. It was okay for me. So I'm going to give this 2 stars. Just wasn't my thing. Don't know if I'll get the next issue. Let me know if you guys want me to cover the book or not. So next is number 21. And that is Spider-Man issue 238. We are getting down to the wire of Bendis ending his run on Miles Morales. And there continues to be more padding with this comic. It just doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And I just don't care about the Sinister Six. We're not really dealing with the Uncle Aaron Spider-Man emotions we should be dealing with. So, just not feeling this arc. And I just feel that this should be a stronger arc for the ending of Bendis' run. And even the artwork feels very plain to me. So overall I gave this 2 stars. Moving on to number 20, which is a series I feel like went a little bit too long, which is Harley and Ivy Meet Betty and Veronica issue 6, even though I do really like this cover, even with the kind of paneling that's going on with that cover. So with this, I just feel like I said before, it just was going on for too long, and I just didn't care about the story by the end. I was like, alright, where are you going with this? Alright, we get it, you're teaming up, you know? Even the humor wasn't really there for me, and the artwork does tend to be a bit lanky. That's been a problem for this story for me. I didn't really love the angles that were always chosen for the artwork, so just underwhelmed overall, and I feel like this would have been a stronger 3-issue miniseries compared to it being a 6-issue miniseries. So I gave this one 2.5 stars, and that is number 20. Alright, moving on to number 19. I think this is going to be higher for some people, but just wasn't my genre, and that is Oblivion Song issue 1. This is Robert Kirkman's new book. And I just did not feel attached to this. It's a post-apocalyptic world, which obviously we've seen Kirkman do before. But what I love about Kirkman's work, it's always about the characters. And here, I just wasn't feeling any character or a connection to a character for me to say, yes, I need the next issue. Even the artwork, it was good, but cartoonier, and I didn't expect that for like a post-apocalyptic type world here. So I don't know if I'm going to get the next issue. It wasn't really for me. I'm glad I tried it out, but I'm probably going to stick with Kirkman's Outcast instead. So I gave this one 3 stars. Again, this is more personal preference than anything. So, moving on to number 18. Another book I was surprised this is so low, and that is X-Men Red issue 2. So X-Men, for me, this was a lot more political than, and not that I mind it being political, because I like the political storyline, but they focused so much on the politics, it took away from the character narrative and just the formation of this team, and that's why it took me out of the story, because Taylor's usually really good with characters and characterization. So it was interesting that the political aspect of the story kind of overtook the story in the issue. And also the artwork is still very cartoony for me, and I didn't expect that going into this book. I kind of felt like a more, I don't want to say realistic look would be more interesting. Kind of like the look of the last issue of Phoenix Resurrection is what I wanted here. Jean looks very young with this artwork, which is weird because we had young Jean and this is obviously the older Jean. So I gave this one 3 stars. Obviously we'll still continue to pick it up, but not exactly where I want the series to be yet. So I gave that 3 stars, like I said. Alright, moving on to number 17. This is actually higher than usual, and that is Avengers issue 683. So Avengers, I haven't been liking as of recently, as of this whole arc. I just haven't, it hasn't been my thing, and a big reason is that I felt like it jumped a lot, but finally here it focused on one story, which is Jarvis and going into his head, and we actually get some plot progression here too, where we learn, well, we already knew that we get to see the Voyager was never part of the Avengers. Who is she? And what's important, at least somebody in the book learns that. So at least some plot point is continuing, and we're getting some plot progression here. So I gave this 3 stars. Also solid artwork overall. So I thought this was an improvement from what we've been getting. Alright, so moving on to number 16, which is Injustice 2, issue 21. Another Tom Taylor book, a little lower than usual, but with this one is mostly artwork. I don't love the Supergirl, Wonder Woman artwork that we've been getting. Just some of the weird facial expressions here, and it's just not as detailed as the other artist that usually works on this book, which we get to see a bit more of that style with the Blue Beetle and Booster Gold storyline. Not particularly fans of either character, so I didn't feel as much of a strong connection there. But story-wise, I did like Kara's story of her kind of ripping away the Rapunzel princess act, I guess, in a way, and really standing for herself and kind of understanding what her place is with this war. And there's also some humor where we get to see Killer Croc and whale character who I don't know say that she's pregnant, and Damien's just laughing hysterically. I thought that was fun, so it's great to have those type of moments in not a heavier issue, but definitely a more emotional issue with the Booster Gold stuff. So overall, just some characters that I particularly don't connect to, which is Booster Gold and Blue Beetle in the better section of the story, and then the artwork for me with the Kara stuff could have been better. So Injustice 2 issue 21 gets 3 stars, and that is number 18? No, number 16. Number 15 is a new book from Boom Studios, and that is, I think it's Boom, Dodge City, issue 1. So this is another sports book, and I really like Fence. It has this anime feel, a really well done sports book, and I wanted to try another one from Boom, which is Dodge City, I believe it's called. Yeah, Dodge City. And this doesn't have the elements that I liked from Fence. I didn't feel like I really learned who these characters were. I didn't feel the stakes in this dodgeball world. It was just like, cool, they're playing dodgeball. I just wanted a little bit more characterization with this book. And also artwork wasn't really particularly my style. Again, I like the cleaner artwork from something like Fence. So I'm going to stick to Fence probably, and I don't know about Dodge City. I don't know if I'm going to give that one another issue. So I gave that 3 stars. And that is number 15. Moving on to another new book, which is Green Hornet, issue 1. Never read a Green Hornet book, don't know much about Green Hornet, so it's cool to learn a bit about the character. I didn't really like the artwork, especially facial expression-wise, but I did like it in the action. I think it was very swift, but I felt like it was a little messy with the facial expressions. But the story, for me, it didn't make me a Green Hornet fan, which is why I gave it 3 stars. But I think for Green Hornet fans, it's something different. Obviously, we have a different character here, and Amy Chu gives a good voice to these characters. Alright, moving on to another new book, which is Gideon Falls, issue 1. And I really love the artwork here. We got Andrea Sorrentino who does it, and very different from his usual style. Obviously, it's still very dark, but I really liked kind of this white, you can see with the, I think you can see it from here, kind of the missing spots in the inking in a cool way, kind of like these white spots. I think made an interesting tone here. And it's mostly about religion. You definitely have a big religious background here, and this guy who thinks he's, you know, talking to God at first, and then he finds out, oh, maybe I'm talking to the devil, and he's collecting garbage on the floor because he thinks this is his calling. And then you have this other contrast of this new priest coming in, and there's another priest that looks like he was possessed by like a demon. I will say the reason this is a little lower is because it's a very slow burn. I like the way they set up the world, and I think I'm going to get another issue of this book just because of that, but I didn't really feel connected to the characters at all, and for me that's usually an initial hook for issue 1. So I don't know if there was an extreme hook here, but I guess the hook is more of the creative team, and they can take their time a bit more than a newer creative team. So I gave this 3 stars. Definitely a slower burn than I wanted though. So that was number, let's see, that was number 13. Moving on, oh, and I gave that 3.5 stars actually, probably because of the artwork. Alright, moving on to number 12, which is Batman White Knight, issue 6. Love this cover. So this more about moving the pieces than anything, where Batman gets caught and the Joker is turning a bit more into, or at least Jack is turning a bit more into the Joker again. So again, it's just more moving the pieces than anything, which is why it's lower, but there's still some really great character moments here. And of course, the artwork is so gritty and really works for this book that is playing with a gray morality scale here. So I gave that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 11, which is X-Men Gold, issue 23, so in the middle of the pack. I like the art styles. For some reason it feels a little anime stylish, and I like the way they use the inking here in the shadows. I think it's kind of cool. And it's a cool issue where we get to see more of how the X-Men's dealing with being in jail, and how the other X-Men are trying to still keep the school in float. But I love this comment where it's like, oh yeah, we're the B team, you know, but we're not, you know, it's like, who are you calling the B team? And it's Ink who says it. It's like, you're lucky that you're a B team. Like, no one really knows your character. Well, I mean, people know his character, but he's not an A-lister or a B-lister. He's probably like a D-lister. So I just chuckled when I saw that. But overall, it's a solid issue. I especially like the Kitty stuff and her adjusting to jail. It looks like we have an orange is a new black cover going on, which is kind of cool for that. The ending's a little unsatisfying though. Kind of feels like it ends on a middle note than a closure, like a cliffhanger. It's like, oh, okay, you got an enemy that's coming by, and then you have this weird interlude in the middle. I kind of wish that was the epilogue. So the organization of this issue was a little weird, but I gave this one 3.5 stars. Still had a fun time reading it. I do think there's some interesting themes for this arc. Alright, moving on to number 10, which is Deathstroke, issue 29, and I really like some of the dramatic beats here, especially between Rose finding out that she killed Joey's fiance and kind of dealing with the consequences there. Yeah, definitely has some emotional beats with Tara, you know, just dealing with her crazy childhood that Deathstroke kind of gave her, and wanting to be cared about more. So that was interesting. Didn't really need the new Superman appearance. I think there's those type of things kind of slow down the issue. But you have a nice cliffhanger where we get Slade, who's now in Arkham Asylum. So that should be an interesting thing that they're going to deal with. And as always, the artwork is so good for this book. I love the paneling. I love, again, the drama for this book, the action. It's just all well done here. So Deathstroke issue 29 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 9. I'm sad to see this kind of in the middle of the pack and not in my top 5, but it's Hawkeye issue 16. And for me, this was a good conclusion for a story arc, but maybe not a whole series. And I know it looks like the series is coming back. I don't think from the same creative team, but we'll see. In August, Kate will be returning somewhere, which I'm happy to see. But there's so many open doors that's a little disappointing. We find out that Kate's mother is still alive. We see that Kate's father is doing good things in this issue. Kind of, you know, helps out Clint, helps out Kate, but then he runs away. We don't really see that final confrontation. And it just, again, it feels more of an ending of a story arc, which was a solid story arc, but not an ending to a series. And maybe because it was canceled and it's not ending, but you really do feel like that stop, and I didn't love that feeling, especially because I really liked this book. So definitely not a bad story. I enjoyed it. Love Kate and Clint's interaction. Love the artwork for this book and just the creativity that goes into the archery aspect, and Kate's quick thinking has been so great for this book, and really brings its own identity to the book too. You know, we've seen a lot of archery comic books, so it's nice to see that. So Hawkeye issue 16 for me gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 9. I think it was number 9. Yes, so number 8, higher than usual, and that is Superman issue 42. Now, I'm not a big Bizarro fan, which is why I can't go higher, but I did like the contrast of, you know, our regular Superman family and the Bizarro family, and you have an interesting cliffhanger where Bizarro Boy meets Superboy, so that's gonna be fun. So, some pacing issues with this. I don't think I need to see as much of Bizarro family, but there's a lot of fun parts where, like, Lois is hitting Bizarro, so I like that aspect. What else did I really enjoy? I really like, you know, Lois and Clark's flirting in the middle of the issue. That was fun. So overall, I thought it was really solid. So I gave this one 4 stars. Alright, moving on to number 7, which is Rogue and Gambit, issue 3. I will say that I think if you're a Rogue and Gambit fan, you will enjoy this more, but even as someone who's not a super Rogue and Gambit fan, I enjoyed this issue. I like the heart-to-heart that Rogue and Gambit has in this issue. Gorgeous artwork throughout, and then you do learn more about this island and why they're forgetting things. So you're digging deeper into the plot, which I thought was done well. So overall, solid issue for me. And if you're a big Rogue and Gambit fan, I really think this is gonna skyrocket to your top 5. All right, moving on to number 6. I'm gonna take a sip of water first. All right, so number 6 is Bloodshot Salvation, issue, what are we up to? Issue 7. Kind of blended into the cover. This is a really interesting issue because all of it is in black and white. So there's actually no images here. It's all, you know, using the negative space with the paneling, which I just thought was really original, which is why it's so high up. And it's, you really see the emotion and feel the emotion of our main character, you know, losing his daughter and then grabbing her and not being able to see. Now, plot progression-wise, there's not a lot of it, but it's an interesting way to use the comic medium, which is why it is higher for me. So overall, Bloodshot Salvation issue 7 gets 4 stars. Definitely pick this one up if you want a unique comic book. I really enjoyed this one. Alright, moving on to number 5, which is She-Hulk issue 163. Artwork a lot better for this issue than we've been getting. I kind of wish this was the artwork for the regular series. I really like the facial expressions here. Really enjoyed the artwork. Now, story-wise, too, really enjoyed it. Dealing with mutant ideas that we don't get to see so often. You know, people accepting this, a mutant in high school, and she's, you know, class president, and her classmates really like her, they're dancing with her, but then it's the outsiders say, oh, no more mutants, no more mutants, and we find out that her mother, because she was trying to help her and protect her, goes to jail because of that. And it's a really interesting, side to look at mutants. You know, seeing that some people do accept mutants, because I think with the X-Men storylines, it's always like everyone hates mutants. So it's nice to see that everyone doesn't have that prejudice, but obviously that prejudice is still there. So I enjoyed that aspect, and Jen kind of relating her own issues with this story, and then changing up her life a bit to be more positive. And of course, I just like seeing Patty and Patsy. I don't know why I called her Patty. Patsy and Jen just interacting with each other. I liked that Patsy didn't even know she was going to a dance. And at first I'm like, why are they at a dance? What's going on here? It's like, are they in high school or something? But I really liked that Patsy dressed up in her formal gown, even though she didn't know where she was going. I thought that was fun and good chemistry there. So She-Hulk issue 163 gets 4 stars, and that is number 5. And overall, I thought it was a good conclusion to the series. Alright, moving on to number 4, which is Jughead issue 4. And this was a really good origin story of Elena, who is Betty's aunt, and how she, you know, became the person she is, that she loved a werewolf, and she got scratched by one, which was, I think it was Jughead's father's brother, so kind of a little bit more distant. But I really liked it. I liked how she became so vicious and how, again, how she became the person she is. She was betrayed, she felt, by her boyfriend. So I just like seeing the other generation. It was a cool story. And of course the artwork is just so good. I love how it mixes, you know, the Archie slice of life feel, because you do have Joe Eisma on half the book, and the other artist matches Joe Eisma's style, but that coloring, the reds, it just brings that hard tone you really need. So Jughead issue 4 for me gets 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Strangers in Paradise XXV issue 2. And if you're a Rachel Rising fan, which I am, that's my favorite Terry Moore book, you're gonna like this issue. And Jet is my my favorite Terry Moore character, so seeing her as kind of the center of this issue was really cool, because we get to see Kachu. She's on the edge of the cliff, and you're like, how the hell did she end up here? And one thing I will say, if you've never read Strangers in Paradise, pick up this issue. They explain the Parker girls very well. They don't explain Francine and Kachu's relationship as much, but I feel like the Parker girls is something you really need to know for this storyline. So, yeah, this is actually a really good jumping on point for Strangers in Paradise, more than even issue 1, surprisingly enough. But I really liked how Moore delves into who the Parker girls are, and then delves into Stephanie's character especially, and how she went to school with Jet. So that's how they were friends, and you get to see what Jet's been up to. You know, she's still rocking the bass, she's still dating Earl, and then you get that little glimpse of Kachu meeting Rachel, and she's like, oh, that girl's definitely been through some stuff. Like, she's pretty, but she's got the you know, red eyes, and she's got, you know, this rope stain, you know, sting on her neck. Something went on with her. So it's cool to kind of see that world again, and obviously mixing it with Strangers in Paradise. Hopefully we get to see even more interaction. We get some references to Echo, if you read that. That's also a little bit connected here. But really good plot progression. And overall, if you're a Moore fan, this was just a lot of fun. So I gave this 4.5 stars. Great dialogue, great artwork as always. Love our black and white feel that we know from Moore. Just really great. I just really enjoyed it. So gonna give that 4.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, this is hard. This is hard not to put it as number 1. I did have a little problem with it, and that is Amazing Spider-Man issue 797. Another really great Spider-Man issue. Really happy to see Dan Slott go down swinging, really, with this arc. Spoiler alerts for this one if you have not read this issue, but we get to see Norman just being the villain he is. You know, it's been a long time since we've really captured Norman correctly, and we really get that here, where he kidnaps J. Jonah Jameson. He's trying to figure out, like, why is Spider-Man hanging out with all these people? And then he realizes, oh yeah, he's Peter Parker. And J. Jonah is not surprised by it, which obviously because of what's been happening with Spectacular Spider-Man. It's kind of weird because those don't feel as connected, so, but he does know that he's Spider-Man, if you haven't been reading that. But I love, he's like, oh, what do I do? Because he wants to protect Peter in a cool way, and I like that. So the Norman stuff was really good, and then Peter is just trying to get over MJ, and that's the part, I love the drama there. Really love how Dan Slott wrote it, but I don't love the direction. You know, obviously, it feels like Marvel's trolling us in some ways, like, oh, we know they want MJ and Peter, let's say, you know, let's give them some images saying, oh, maybe they'll come back, and obviously they're not. It's the same story of like, we can't do this. So as much as I like those scenes, I kind of dislike those scenes, so that's why it was kind of hard for me to rate this one, but I gave it 4.5 stars. The artwork is so good. I think this is some of Immonen's best work. I mean, just the way that the shadows are done. I love the coloring here. It's just some of the best storylines we've seen from Amazing Spider-Man in a long time. So I gave this one 4.5 stars, and excited to see where we go with this one. Really enjoying Norman's story here, and probably the most I've been enjoying it, even though we've been getting those teasers from previous issues. Alright, number 1 for me is Batman, issue 42. I just really like the dialogue here. I know maybe some people will be upset because Catwoman, like, beat up the Justice League, but they're under, you know, they're under mind control, so it's more Poison Ivy. So let's give Catwoman that. I know, I have a feeling people would be upset with that, but it doesn't take away the overall story for me, which is Catwoman and Poison Ivy especially combating heads. And I love Catwoman's sarcasm in this issue, where she's like, you know what? My bridesmaid's gonna be Ivy, or she doesn't say this, but her DJ is gonna be Ivy. Ivy's just gonna be in our wedding because obviously she's upset what's happening, and she's trying to communicate to Batman about that in a different way because Poison Ivy's listening, totally. And then I even like the small scenes of Catwoman saying, hey, Batman, you probably should see a therapist. I like that, like, small scene. It's like, oh, but you haven't seen a therapist about your bad issues. Obviously, she wasn't trying to say go see a therapist, but I still thought that was a fun little nod to, you know, Batman's problems. But and also the artwork is just so gorgeous. It's photogenic in so many ways. It's so good, or photo-like, really. Just I love it. And by the end, I do like that they, you know, Tom King delves a little bit into Poison Ivy and Catwoman's relationship, that they were friends, and even Poison Ivy's like, oh, well, we should rather, you know, we should be friends at least, and Catwoman's like, we are friends, what changed? And you find out why Poison Ivy's doing the things she's doing, why she wants control, is because she felt like she lost control when she killed somebody during the Jokes and Riddles storyline. So really liked how that came together and came full circle. And then you have this fun little last line where Batman and Harley interact, and Batman's like, Puddin', I knew it was gonna be you. And it's just cool that Harley is being involved in her girlfriend's story, which is Poison Ivy. So we'll see how that plays out as well. So I really enjoyed this issue. Again, beautiful artwork. Really liked Catwoman, especially in this issue, and in her interaction with Poison Ivy, and just really well done dialogue here. So, that was my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, in the description below, there will be links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.